Hey y'all, let's chat. So I want to start today's chat off by, ooh, the hair in my eye, by letting you guys know it is my 100th video. Come on. I wish I had like some confetti, some confetti and all of that stuff. But the Rona, But I felt like it wouldn't be right to not celebrate the fact that I made it to 100 videos. I always wondered what my 100th video was going to be, so as I got closer, I wanted to make sure that I picked something of substance to be my 100th video. But I want to just say thank you to everybody that continues to subscribe to me, that watches whatever I post, even if, it's not the most exciting topics, but I want to make sure that I always keep a good balance of informative videos as well as funny videos, as well as videos on sex and all the other crazy relationship stuff that we like to talk about that gets all the views. Current events, all that good jazz. But thank you to everybody that has motivated me to get to this point, to continue to film. I'm really excited to see what the next 100 are going to consist of. So I ain't ran out of material yet. That's a good sign because I was worried, all right? So I want to start this video off with pretty much, I want to enforce how important it is to make sure that if you are somebody who goes to therapy, or if you've been interested in therapy and going to therapy, and you kind of got stopped in your tracks with this whole coronavirus thing, to please, please, please remember that we have something called teletherapy. And pretty much what's happening is we providers, therapists, counselors, social workers, we doctors even, but right now we're talking about therapy, are even able to have services via video chat and via the phone. So please don't let the fact that you cannot go into an office and see your therapist or to meet a therapist discourage you from seeking services or from continuing your therapeutic journey. This is a very critical time to make sure that we are taking care of our mental health. A lot of people are in jeopardy of losing their jobs or are unemployed at the moment, and we want to make sure that you guys are having someone to check in with and just make sure that you are keeping in a good headspace while we're all getting through this. So please understand that, especially if you have a major insurance carrier. I read online last night that apparently Aetna, Cigna, and Anthem are waiving out-of-pocket fees for teletherapy March 19th through June 4th. So I'm not 100% sure how valid that is. However, I encourage you to check with your insurance company if you do have insurance to find out what they are doing to help people during this time. I know for a fact Blue Cross Blue Shield, pretty much every insurance panel has given the thumbs up for therapists to do teletherapy. So please just do not be discouraged because you can't go into an office and actually sit face to face with somebody. We can still get you served, and make sure that you have somebody to process all of this with. So I just wanted to, this message is sponsored by Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health, okay? My bad. So I just wanted to make sure that I got that very clear for people who, again, like a lot of people are becoming open to going to therapy, and I don't want this to stop anybody from starting their journey. So continue to look into that and see what's being offered based on, what your services are or what you've already been doing. So because I remember I had a conversation with one of my best friends, and, we were talking about the whole mental health matters, mental health awareness thing, and she said that one thing she would encourage me to do a video about specifically is pretty much how to prepare for therapy, how to pretty much know what you're getting yourself into. So I want to spend some time talking to you guys about the best way to get yourself prepared for therapy. I think that some people, they find a therapist, they sign up, they say, hey, I want to come in for an appointment, and they get there and they have no clue like what's getting ready to happen. So I want to kind of address what some of these questions are, or just give you a general picture of what going to therapy could look like and what you should do on your end before going. So Got my laptop again, so I make sure I don't miss nothing. Um, so the first thing I want to say is don't go to therapy just because everybody is saying go to therapy. Like, it doesn't really work if you aren't in the headspace to know that this is something that you truly want to do. Like, if other people are encouraging you to do it, unless you really want to do it, sometimes the benefit of it doesn't really help. And you don't get what you should be getting out of it. So that's number one. I also want to emphasize the fact that if you go to therapy before you are actually ready to go to therapy, there is a good chance that you could be closed off. The experience can just feel disingenuous. You may even get defensive at observations that the therapist makes just because you aren't in the space to be open to receive this feedback yet. And that's okay. Like, I think because we are encouraging people to go to therapy and we are trying to normalize therapy, sometimes we can miss the mark with pushing people to go before they truly feel like they're in a space to be vulnerable and transparent. Like, if you're not going to be that in therapy, then you kind of like wasting your time. Like, your therapist can sit and they can listen to you, but if it's just a lot of surface level stuff, it really doesn't work. And then you're like, well, I went, but I don't really see what the big deal is because you weren't truly open and ready for the experience. And so that's just one thing I want to encourage people to think about. It's like, is this something that you are completely ready to engulf yourself in? And are you ready to do the work? Because you can go and, we can sit and we can talk about all the things that have been happening in your life. And I can encourage and give you feedback and advisement on how to start to fix those things or, work with you on that. However, if you don't go home and do anything, then again, we kind of just talking. And sometimes that's enough for people, but I just want to throw that out there. So, yeah, be prepared to do the work. Be prepared to be open. If not, then it just really defeats the purpose. So, I also want to mention the fact that therapists are mandated reporters. What does that mean? What is a mandated reporter? Pretty much, if you tell us that you want to harm yourself or harm somebody else, if you mention anything about child or elder abuse, we have to report that. So people go into therapy and they're like, oh, this is confidential. I can say whatever I want. You can. And I want you to be aware of what could potentially happen if you say certain things. Now, I know some people, especially when it comes to suicidal thoughts, some people I've mentioned this before, you may sit there and say sometimes I wake up and I wish I hadn't. And, okay. However, we're not just going to stop there. Like, you can't just say stuff like that and think that you're going to switch the subject. Like, no, we getting ready to get into what that means for you and what that looks like and if you got a plan and how long you've been feeling this way and do you have means. And I got to assess a whole lot of things when you say things like that. So I encourage you to be honest, but I also want you to understand the implications of your words. I know that, and this is not to offend anybody, but I know that sometimes people, they say stuff for shock value or to get a reaction, and sometimes it backfires. So you can't say that you down in the dumps and you thinking about offering yourself tomorrow and expecting me not to call somebody, and then when I call them, you be like, oh, no, I ain't mean it. Don't do that, okay? Now, that's an extreme case, but I just want to throw that out there, that you can't just be going in there, saying that you abusing your kid at home and you smacking them around because they get on your fucking nerves. I have to call and say something. Now, they're going to investigate after that, but I can't just keep that to myself. So, there's that. So, first session. You may or may not have, what's called an assessment. Now, the therapist, they may be collecting information from you and storing it up here to put into, an assessment later, but sometimes you expect a formal assessment. I know for me, I was in grad school, so I kind of learned the ins and outs of what therapy was going to look like. And then when I got to my therapist, it was no paperwork that she was sitting there filling out. And I was like, But I also was the type that kind of got in the room and started spilling all my guts too. So who knows? I could have curbed her plan and all of that. But so that's something to be aware of. During your first session, you may have an assessment. What does an assessment consist of? It's pretty much a piece of paper or a packet that allows us to gather information about you, why you came to therapy, some family history, some treatment history. You got any physical stuff going on? You got kids? We just talk about the basic things that happen or that are a part of your life. What do you do for a living? What are you here for? So that is the biggest thing I want you to be prepared to share. Why did you contact them? You can't just come in there and sit down and be like, so I'm here. But why are you here? Like, you need to be prepared to discuss, like, what made you take this step, whether it be somebody encouraged you to do it. Okay, they encouraged you to do it. Why did they encourage you to do it? Don't get in that seat and be like, well, my mama, she feel like I need therapy, but I don't really think I need it. Like, I know I be going out every night and be missing work, and, I keep wine bottles underneath my bed, but I don't think I need it like that. Yeah, that's not going to work. Okay? So, be prepared. If somebody refers you or encourages you to go, be prepared to talk about why. Like, again, this is an open space. You can't really come to therapy and expect to, like, keep everything to yourself, because it don't work like that. All right? So, I know that some people get in that office and they expect for the therapist to immediately take the lead. So, with me, I do assessments and, I got stuff to fill out. So, during that first session, I'm going to be asking you all a question. But when that second session comes around, I'm going to need for you to, like, take some initiative for us to be able to delve into further what you want to get out of this, okay? Or else y'all can just sit there and be looking at each other. And that's uncomfortable for us and for y'all. So, I want you to, these are just some things that you can think about before you enter into the room as far as, why are you potentially seeking services? So, are you struggling with something emotionally? Where do you think that came from? What have others said about how you respond to your emotions, or what remarks have other people said, whether you agree with them or not? Like, what things have other people said about you that you have trouble seeing, especially if it's a repeated comment. Girl, you always do this, or you always do that. And you be like, no, I don't. So when you get in therapy, that's something to bring up. Is like, people always say this about me, and I'm having trouble seeing it. I don't really understand where it's coming from. That's a really good place to start. So that's part one. What emotionally happens for you? Are you generally in a good mood? Are you generally, in a kind of meh mood? Think about how you typically feel on a day-to-day basis and where there seems to be maybe some issues or some areas for improvement. Relationships. What type of relationships are in your life that you want to improve or you want to work on? Why do you think that they're not good, or why do you think that they're failing, or what can make them better? What do you think is happening within the problem? Because that's what they're going to ask. It's like, well, why do you think that this is an issue? Okay? Next part, career. That's a big one for people. Do you feel like you're living in your purpose? Do you feel like you just move from job to job and nothing is really fulfilling you? Do you feel like you've not reached your highest potential? What would your highest potential look like? Do you feel stuck? Is there something else you wish you could be doing? These are all really good starting points when it comes to going to what you want to talk about, what you want to bring up when you go to therapy. Major transitions. So some people, like, they may go to therapy a couple times and they be like, okay, for whatever their initial problem was, they be like, okay, I'm good. Well, if you get ready to have a major transition, you get ready to graduate, you getting ready to start a new job, you getting ready to start grad school, you getting ready to get married, it's probably not a good time to stop seeing your therapist. That is when you're going to need them the most. Speaking as a person who's been in therapy for 4 or 5 years, okay, 5 years, she saw me through a breakup, she saw me through being in grad school and becoming a therapist. It was great having her kind of as a mentor as well as my therapist. Like, that was dope. Any therapist that see this, please, or if you're in grad school to do that, please go to therapy. Um, what else? I already told you I almost got kicked out of school. I don't know if I told that story on the channel. It's on my Instagram. But yeah, I almost got kicked out of school. All right, that was a mess. What else did I go through? Graduating grad school and transitioning to the work field, transitioning through jobs. These niggas, okay, situationships, like, it's been a lot. And I've needed her every single step in every single one of those milestones, all right? Getting fired. So, all I'm saying is, just when you think you got it together, you know, because I definitely had periods of time where I'm like, life's kind of good right now. And what happened? And let me tell you what you do when that happens. So when you start therapy, your therapist may recommend that you see them on a weekly basis, depending on what you're coming for. Now, as you start to manage things better, you don't have to see your therapist every week. You know, you can see her every 2 weeks. I moved to a point where, you know, I didn't need to go to therapy every week. So I would go every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. Sometimes I see her once a month. Like, I just kind of make my appointments as I see fit. During the midst of this coronavirus, I've been doing okay for the most part. So I had an appointment. I postponed it for, 2 weeks from now. And that just is what works for us. Don't do it the day before, because most therapists, they got a 24-hour period of time in which you can reschedule before they got to charge you a fee. So I just want to make that clear. Like, you don't have to think that just because you go to therapy, you're committed to going every week. Or if you start to feel better, that you don't need to go at all, okay? If anything, make it like a check-in situation where you go once a month. Because you'll be surprised. When I started spreading my therapy sessions out front of it seemed like most shit was happening. Like, 3 weeks done went by, and I sat here and told her 3 weeks worth of stuff that I got to cram into an hour. I'd be like, dang, I should have came, last week. So that's just something you want to think about. Transitions, and not just, it's kind of like medicine. You don't just stop taking the medicine just because you feel better, depending on what medication it is. You kind of have to do some maintenance. And sometimes mental health, you need maintenance. So you may want to consider, going once a month, or, still just kind of making like check-in appointments versus just stopping altogether. Another thing to think about when it comes to, okay, I want to try therapy. I don't really know where to start. A lot of us, when we lay down to go to sleep at night, we have thoughts about stuff that we don't want to think about. Typically. If you go to sleep and you don't have no lingering, little stuff about all your skeletons in your closet that you don't talk to nobody about, that's the stuff you want to write down and talk about in therapy. Okay? So think about that. Like, what are things that I've been avoiding? What are things that creep up on me that I don't really realize? And one thing I will say about certain stuff is it may take time. Like, I probably was in therapy for 2 to 3 years before I spoke about something that I had never spoken to anybody about. And the only reason I think it really came up for me is because I started having dreams about it. And I believe that, God and therapy work in alignment. Like, you've been in therapy all this time. You still got some stuff underneath there that you want to work, that you need to address. And so that's what will happen when you've been in therapy for an extended period of time. You get past that surface level problem stuff, and you get to the stuff that's buried underneath, the stuff that you don't really want to say out loud. And it forces you into that space. And I was glad I got into that space because it allowed me to heal from something that I had been taunted by for a very long time. And embarrassed by and ashamed of, and it was one of those things where, like I said, I was prepared to take that to the grave, and it started coming up for me, and I was like, I can't do this. I got to talk to her about this. I need to make sense of it. And doing so really helped me move past it. So those are the types of things that you can talk about in therapy, okay, in that first session. Then, they may be a little deep for your first session if you ain't that open yet, but don't just cut the process when there's some stuff underneath there, all right? Another thing to consider wanting to get out of therapy, better coping skills. So you want to consider when you have a bad day or you get bad news, what do you typically do? You drinking, you smoking, you having sex, you shopping, you emotionally eating. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad, but you want to think about, like, how do you cope with life's problems? Do you stuff it? Do you bury it? Because black people, we good for that. I just get through it. Okay, you think you're getting through it, but it's coming out in other ways, I guarantee you. Whether it be anger, you lashing out on folks. So, how have you been dealing with life problems thus far? And could you use some work in those areas? All right. One thing you want to stay away from, especially like if a therapist is just outright ask you, like, what are your goals for working with me? Like, what do you want to get out of this? So some people, they go to like a generic statement where they like, I just want to feel happier. You have to have an understanding of what happier looks like for you. I can't help you get there if I don't know what that looks like, and you can't get there if you don't know what that looks like. So you need to have a really good understanding of life. For you, what would happier look like? How would you know you felt better? Whether that be, I get up and I don't hate my job today, or I'm being more social. You need to know what your behaviors kind of would replicate in order for you to be able to tell somebody, what you being more happier would look like. So I can't tell you what happy you would look like, but you can tell me that, and then I can work with you on how to get there. All right. So regardless of what you disclose in therapy or what you feel like you want to get out of it, be prepared, like I said, to do some work. And sometimes that literally means be prepared to do some homework, okay? Some therapists assign homework, some don't. Mine has never really done that, but I'm a therapist. I'm a homework giving therapist, all right? Especially if I feel like, there are areas that you can work on. And it's not like actual homework you got to sit down and write, but, I'm good for telling somebody to go make a pros cons list. Sit down and weigh some stuff out so next time you come in, we can discuss it, okay? If you feel like you want things to work on when you leave the office, ask for that. That's a big thing. It's like, don't be afraid to ask a therapist for what you need. Like, some people I know have stopped going, just up and stopped going to therapy because they felt like, well, she not challenging me enough, or, he not being direct enough, or, he too soft with me. Give a person some room to improve on what you feel like you need before you just write them off. So if you feel like, I like some stuff to work on at home, do you have anything, worksheets, or do you have any exercises I can do? Bring that to the table if that's something you feel like you would benefit from. I also saw the funniest tweet that said, before you go to therapy, or it said to your first therapy session, you should print out and bring your last 100 tweets. Tweets tell a lot about somebody. Now, I think that's a drastic measure, but if it works for you, sit and really assess the type of stuff that you post on social media. And think about why you post it. Are you looking to get somebody's attention? Are you, looking to make a statement? Like, the things that we post online are very, very telling of things about our personality or things that we're going through that we may be passive-aggressively communicating to other people. You can say it's just a post, but I'm here to tell you, okay? Sometimes it's a passive-aggressive way to communicate something. So, just throwing that out there. Also, something to be aware of. You're a therapist. They may or may not be a note taker. I know that my therapist, she don't take notes. Shorty got a hell of a memory. She don't write nothing down. But I'm a note taker. Like, I just don't have the memory. So I need to be able to jot things down. And we do like documentation, like we do notes on our clients after we meet with you. So I like to write things down, just, basic words or phrases to help me, just generate good thoughts and some good things to put into my notes. But I had one of my life coaching clients, he met with me and he was like, he said he had seen a therapist previously, and so when we were sitting there talking, he was like, see, yeah, I like you because that other lady, she ain't never write nothing down. And I don't want you to think that just because the person isn't writing something down that they're not retaining information. Sometimes them not writing things down allows them to be more present with you. And so if that's the style that works for them, don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing just because you don't see them write anything down. if you are concerned about them writing things down. Some people get paranoid, like, what they over there writing? You can ask to see notes. You can ask to see them. I mean, if they smart, they not writing down nothing that's going to be offensive. They writing down literally, like I said, for me, at least, I'm writing down stuff that you saying. Like basic stuff that we're discussing, or things that I'm advising or encouraging, or the feedback that I'm giving, just so that, like I said, I have a clear picture of this is what came up, this is kind of what I considered, I encourage you to consider, and, it's just that kind of dialogue. But yes, you can ask to see a therapist notes if you are paranoid that they are over there writing something about you that you don't like or you wouldn't want. So, yeah, that's that. Also, I want you to consider what rapport building looks like. For anybody that doesn't know what rapport is, it is building a relationship with somebody, building a bond, building a connection. And so sometimes when you're in therapy, you may sit there and talk about what Netflix shows you watching, or what music you like to listen to. And so you may sit there and feel like, is this what I'm paying for? But I want you to loosen up a little bit, okay? Don't think that you're not getting value out of your sessions, because sometimes that's where your conversations go. That is a part of rapport building. Finding connections between the two of you all is important for you to feel, like I said, connected to somebody, and being able to, have similarities. I talk to, especially, know this, if you somebody that come in the office, and I love my clients to death, but I've definitely had clients that came in, and I'll be like, okay, how things been? And they'd be like, good. I can't, what do you want me to do with that? I only have so many questions I can ask you, especially after I've been seeing you for a while. So you got to come with something. I encourage you, while I'm here, I tell every client this. Start a note on your phone, label it therapy, and write down stuff as it happens. Anytime I have a disagreement with somebody, I have an inconvenience, I cry, I struggle with something, I'm putting it down in my notes to bring up in therapy. Whether that be for me to talk through it with her, or for me to acknowledge, my progress. I do that a lot, where I'm like, before, if I had went through this, child, I would have had a whole meltdown, and it would have been a fool. I can now acknowledge my progress by saying I went through this, and I didn't respond how I normally respond. I actually, got through it pretty well, and I'm really excited about that. Being able to share the progress that you're seeing within yourself with your therapist is a very important part of the therapeutic process. So please, 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 if you are already in therapy, keep a note of just stuff that kind of happened. Sit at the end of the day and think about what took place over the course of that day. What stuff that you can talk about in your next session. Because, like I said, I love my clients. But sometimes it's like pulling teeth. And as a therapist, we are realistic. There are some people sessions we don't look forward to, because it's like you sitting there and the clock is just, because you're not coming with nothing. I need you to come with something, anything. And if you don't, then I'm going to sit there and I'm going to ask you, what's the last movie you saw, and what you watching on Netflix, and, have you been to any concerts, or have you heard such and such new album? And again, that's cool. I like talking about that stuff. I'm going to come up with something for us to talk about before I let you go early. You ain't leaving early, okay? Unless you need to leave early. But I'm just saying, if you want to get the most out of your session, know what you want to come with. Know what you want to discuss. I tell people the same thing when they go, to the doctor, or they have a physical. You may not go to the doctor that often, but little stuff be happening to your body that you sit there and you wonder about. If you get in that, and then most times you get in the doctor's office and you be like, you forget about all the ailments that you've had, and then you be jacked up, because you be like, damn. You leave out and be like, oh, I forgot to mention this, or I was supposed to get some cream for that, or I should have mentioned that, what happened last two weeks ago or a month ago. So you're paying for it. It's your time. Make sure that you are using it wisely, okay? Same thing with your kids. If you take your child to therapy, and they come out and, you like, okay, how was it? They like, it was cool. We played Uno. Don't think that you're wasting your money for your child to play Uno, especially when it comes to kids and teenagers. Like, we have to, they don't open up as fast as adults, you know. Sometimes it takes time to really get them going. So, yes, the therapist may be playing games with them during session, but that doesn't mean that while they're playing that game, that they're not asking targeted questions to get certain information. Or, you know, they're not looking at how does this child react if they lose. Do they have anger issues? Do they get anxious if they feel like something isn't going their way? So, yeah, I just want people to loosen up a little bit. Therapy doesn't always have, every session doesn't always have to be a serious, trauma driven, you know, discussion. Sometimes you're gonna have more lighthearted discussions, and that's okay. Like, that's helping you all to kind of bond and build rapport, which is a huge part of having a good therapeutic relationship with somebody. But yeah, if you feel like, okay, a week passed and ain't much really happened, and you know, I ain't got much to talk about, okay, that's when it's time for you to start spreading your sessions out a little further, okay? You may need, you know, 3 weeks or a month check-in or every 2 weeks to feel like you got enough to get you through an hour. But I will tell you, 60 minutes is a long time to get through if you don't have nothing to talk about, okay? So, please just take heed to that. I feel like that's it. I feel like I mentioned all the really important things to consider before your first session, and you know, maybe into your first couple sessions. Like I said, don't. Sometimes it's hard to figure out if you have a good fit with a therapist, and sometimes you may have to go to more than one person. But before you go to somebody else, like I said, please just be in the position to at least express to them what you feel like you're lacking. Now again, if it's a race issue or age issue where you just feel like they don't understand your frame of reference, or you make certain jokes, or you say certain things and they don't really have a frame of reference for it, that's understandable. Like, I would understand like why you would kind of decide to go to somebody else sooner rather than later. But if it just seems, you know, a little slow, I always tell people, give it 3 to 5 sessions before you just completely write the person off, and make sure that you're asking for what you're not getting if you feel like you need it. Okay. So I just want to end this with telling you once again how to go about finding a therapist, because I get this question pretty often. You can, if you have insurance, go through your insurance company, find out what providers are in network. That's information is usually listed somewhere on their website. If you have a hard time navigating that, you can always call and they will give you step-by-steps on how to do that. Therapy for Black Girls is a good website. My partner organization that I work with, Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health, they do a really good job of providing, especially if you don't have insurance. That's the part I'm still kind of learning about myself, is how to go about finding a therapist if you don't. But again, I think when I signed up for my medical insurance, my Medicaid, there was a section that talked about, you know, what therapists provide services under Medicaid. But Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health, they have a website. If you just look it up, it'll come right up. They will help you kind of navigate that process if you don't have major insurance company like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, Aetna, those types, United Behavioral Health, those types. Google is your best friend, okay? It is very easy to find people that are in your area. Some websites even have photos. Psychology Today, huge one. I almost forgot to say that. Psychology Today is a great place to start for looking for a therapist, because they are going to tell you what they take, what they specialize in. That's something else that I wanted to touch on. It is okay to ask the therapist questions about their experience. What types of people are they used to working with? What have they treated before? What are their specialties? Because sometimes people get curious about if that person is suited to work with the type of issues that they have. And, you know, sometimes people are going to be a good fit and sometimes they're not. And that's okay. You know, just don't give up on the journey itself. keep going. All right? So I'm hoping that this was helpful to give you an understanding of what to kind of expect during your first few sessions and how to start on your own to make sure that you are getting your money's worth when you actually get in the room. Okay? Don't go in that therapist's office and sit there and say you don't know. You don't know. I'm just here. They gonna help you, but I'm just saying, don't make it harder than it need to be. Like, sit and kind of do some reflection. Look, during this quarantine, we ain't got nothing but time. Sit and reflect on what you need to sort out in your life. And that should definitely point you in the direction of wanting to go talk to somebody. Okay, so y'all have a good one. Enjoy your quarantine day 357.